What's up, baseball fans? Welcome to another episode of the Payoff Pitch Podcast. I am Brandon Brown, joined today by just one other guy. We're missing half the team, Brady. I got Brady Farkas here, the Mariners expert, and we will talk about the Mariners a little bit. But honestly, Brady, I want to talk about this. We got a little one-on-one time here just for a second. I have been very, very impressed by the level of knowledge that all three of you guys have, but I know you've been doing this for a long time. Is baseball just like eating, sleeping, and breathing for you at this point?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
It's the old Honus Wagner quote. They ask me, what do I do in winter? I sit out the window and I wait for spring. That's me. So
There you
that's where
go.
we're at. So
I'm always very impressed by the three of you guys. Just I throw something out there that's technically on our notes like your topic, but then Jack chimes in and Tom chimes in, and you do the same thing for their stuff. It's really impressive. Anybody who wants to learn baseball or loves hearing about baseball should be all over this podcast, and that's kind of our goal as we move forward and as the season continues to go. So first things first, man. You've talked about the Braves quite a bit on these episodes and how they looked like a shell of what they should be. I know they were dealing with some injuries and stuff like that, but lately it's been a little bit better. They're now 10-14 overall as of us recording this on a Thursday morning. 6-4 over their last 10. They're in the phrase that you used. They're back from the dead a little bit. Is that really how it feels for the Braves right now?
yes, Braves were 0-7, and here they are now. They've won. Look, they're out to 10-14, right? So that means they've won from 0-7 to I think they've won 10 of their last 17 games. Now, Spencer Strider came back from the injured list. He's now back on the injured list with a hamstring issue. Ronald Acuna Jr. is going to come back, hopefully, probably maybe end of May or so. Chris Sale, last year's Cy Young winner, has struggled. He's 0-2 with a 6.17 going in to Friday. So, they are 10-14, which puts you in the mix. And they have all of these other things you're waiting on, which should make a big difference. Sale is going to look better. Strider is going to come back and be good. Acuna is going to come back, and I don't know if he's going to be MVP Acuna, but he's going to come back and be a huge piece of that lineup. Ozzie Albies has struggled. So for them to be 10-14 and be in the mix without getting contributions from a big 3 or 4, there's some real reasons for optimism there. Now, the Mets are playing excellently in the NL East right now. They are leading the division by a healthy amount, but they just swept the Phillies. The Phillies have now come back to the pack. They're hovering right at 500. The Marlins and Nationals are not for real. So instantly there's a path for the Braves to get up into at least third place here in short order. And once you start doing that with the expanded wild card format, you are back in the mix. So I expect the Braves to be in the thick of things. Again, the Mets may end up winning the division, but we've seen you don't have to win the division to A, make the playoffs, and B, make a big run in the playoffs. So I still think the Braves will be fine.
How surprising was it that they started so poorly? I mean, when you rattle off the names, I mean, it's like some of the who's who in baseball. Like, that just shouldn't happen. I mean, I guess two-parter. Why was it, and how surprising was it that they started so bad?
It's baseball. Like that's bounce doesn't go your way here. You start the year off, and I don't want to make an excuse, right? But you spend 2 months at spring training or a month and a half at spring training, and then you're forced right away to go on a 3,000-mile trip. So you talk about not being home, and these are human beings, right? You're a month and a half in some dorm room or in some compound in Florida. And then you got to fly all the way across the country to go to San Diego and the Dodgers, who right now are two of the best teams in baseball. So you're facing two very good teams. It's a long, difficult trip anyways. You're doing it while you're away from home. And oh, by the way, you're missing your Cy Young caliber starter and your former MVP, and you're going up against the reigning champions and the Padres, who are a team that want to challenge those reigning champions. That's just a lot of things to be thrown at you early. Now, did we expect them to be 0-7? No. But I have seen, the Boston Red Sox start, 2-8 out of that kind of trip a couple of years ago. That's a hard trip to do coming from Florida out of spring training. It was certainly surprising because we know how good their roster is. We saw them navigate injuries last year to still make the playoffs. But as they say, that's baseball, Susan.
That's baseball, Susan. Well, you did a good segue there, too, bringing up the Mets a little bit. They're, I guess, maybe depending on how you look at it, over the last 10, they'd be one of the hottest, if not the hottest teams in baseball. 8-2 over the last 10, 18-7 overall, and in the driver's seat right. I mean, again, it's early, it's baseball, like you said, but at the top of their division right now. How hot are the Mets?
Mets are very hot. They were 12-1 in their first 13 home games this year. That's the best start at home in franchise history. And I've said this, there's a couple of corny sayings in baseball that I think really do matter. And one of them is good teams do two things, Brandon, as far as I'm concerned. Good teams win at home, and good teams beat who they're supposed to beat. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not asking you to play 700 ball on the road, and I'm not asking you to play 700 ball against all the other best teams in baseball. I'm asking you to win at home and beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And if you do that, you're going to be in a pretty good spot at the end of the year with just that alone. And here the Mets are winning 12 of their first 13 at home. And what's impressive most about them is that when they go out and spend $765 million on Juan Soto and bring back Pete Alonso, you would think offense is the calling card. Like, offense is the thing that's supposed to carry them. And here they are through 25 games putting together for their own franchise historic pitching performances in the starting rotation. And they're doing it without Sean Manaea, the guy they paid $75 million to this offseason because he's hurt. Frankie Montas is a guy they signed in the offseason. He's hurt. So they're doing it arguably without probably their 1 and 3 pitchers. They're getting historic starting rotation performances. And Soto's been good, but he hasn't been great yet. He hasn't been peak Soto. Alonso's been very good. But you look at this team, they made the NLCS last year. They go get Soto. They go get Montas. You start thinking, okay, this is what's going to get him over the hump. And it's been kind of some other things doing it. So to be 18-7, to be leading the division, to be sweeping aside your division rivals, and to be doing it kind of in a non-expected way, I think kind of glass half full. I think there's more in the tank there for the Mets.
You mentioned injuries now for a couple different teams, and I'm a Tigers guy. That's where my heart is. I've been in the Detroit area for a while now, and they're beat up as well. Started that way. Are injuries higher this year than normal? Does it feel that way? I mean, and it's some really big names too. That's why it seems like it. But every team you've just talked about so far, you've talked about some of the biggest names they have being out hurt right now.
It's just a season of attrition. Like, that's what baseball is. It's 162 games. And there's a lot of people out there that want to discount baseball because it's not as physical as the NFL, or you don't have to be as athletic as in the NBA. But it is a grind to go out there every single day and travel all around the country to do it. And one day you're playing when it's 37 and snowing out in April, and the next day you're playing when it's 102 out there in St. Louis in the summer. It takes a lot out of you. As for more injuries, I don't have data in front of me, but pitching is always going to be volatile and is always going to lend itself to injuries. Throwing overhand is an unnatural motion as it is. If your arm was meant to go like this, you would have been born with your arm like that, okay? Your arm is not meant to go over your head like that. At the repetitions, at the stress levels that these guys throw under, at the velocities that they throw under, and now with the push for velocity, there's more and more injuries because everybody's throwing as hard as they can all the time. So pitching, I think you are going to see more injuries in that regard. They will continue to pile up. And look, while there's a handful of guys that make a whole lot of money that teams want to protect, there's a whole lot of arms that are seen as expendable because, hey, it's just on to the next one when you get hurt. So as for position players, I don't know that there's more, but you certainly see guys, right? Strained hamstring here, pulled quad there. Guy gets hit by a pitch here. You will always see that.
It really is amazing, man. When you watch a pitcher throw in slow motion, it's almost like how do any of them do that for more than 2 times, 2 or 3, and they're throwing 80, 90 pitches a game. It's pretty incredible. Let's talk about your Mariners, another hot team, 7-3 over their last 10, 14-11 overall. You feeling pretty good about the they are your favorite. You're not like, you don't hide that, right?
Die hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Die hard. Look, they're 14-11. They're playing well, and they're doing it. You talk about an atypical way, right? This team is built on its starting pitching. And for years, the offense has been subservient to the pitching staff. And the Mariners have played a whole lot of 1-0 games, 3-2 games, 4-3 games, 2-2 into the 10th inning. They're always in low-scoring games. And here we are, 25 games in, and the Mariners are in the top 5 of most offensive categories, okay? They're in the top 5 in home runs, top 5 in stolen bases, top 5. They're top 7 in on-base percentage, 10th in OPS. They're first in the league in walks. Like, they are doing it in a lot of different ways offensively, and they're doing it with a lot of different guys, okay? Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh are big names, and they can carry the team at any given time, but Rowdy Tellez hits 3 home runs against the Blue Jays, a guy that some people have never heard of. And Dylan Moore wins American League Player of the Week, a guy that some people have never heard of. And they're just getting all – Ben Williamson, a rookie call-up who's played, 10 games in the major leagues, is playing really, really well. So they've got an old-school nature to them, an old-school approach. They've got an old-school hitting philosophy that they're employing this year that they haven't had in years past. Look, they're 14-11. Again, they started out 3-7. Like, they got swept by the Giants and the sky was falling at 3-7. And I was there with the sky in my hand, ready to drop it. Like, it was that dire. And here they are, 14-11, tied for first place in the division entering Friday. The American League is extremely mediocre, so I expect the Mariners will go on a slide at some point. But so will most other teams in the American League. And I think the American League is going to be kind of a hodgepodge of mediocrity for a lot of the year. And that's going to keep the Mariners not only relevant, but it's going to keep them in it. And if they play like they're playing, they're going to have a chance to do something special in this league moving through the course of the year.
The AL West is very competitive top to bottom right now. Everybody's rated, 12-13 at the bottom, 14-11 at the top. Do you think the Mariners, what's that look like throughout the rest of the year? Is it going to remain that competitive? Are the Mariners, Rangers going to separate themselves at the top? Like, what do you think ends up happening over there?
I think it will be competitive. But again, competitive in part because it's mediocre. I don't think that anybody in the division is great. And I don't really think that anybody in the division is awful. I think the Angels are a clear cut below everybody else. I think that they will fall out of it. I think the A's will probably end up with not necessarily a great record, but they are certainly competitive. They're certainly pesky and frisky. They're tough to beat. They're gonna sweep someone you don't expect at some point during the year. Like, they're gonna be a thorn in someone's side. So I would say that the Mariners, Rangers, and Astros are clearly the class of the division, but all of them have their warts and all of them have the ability to go on a hot streak also. I picked the Mariners to win the division before the year started. They've already dealt with significant injuries also. So far, they are overcoming them. We'll see if they can continue to do that. But I would say because of the starting pitching, the Mariners are the best team in the division. But I could make a case for the Rangers and Astros also.
Well, let's look at the other side of the coin now, a team that's maybe heading in the wrong direction, and that's the Baltimore Orioles. They're 10-14 overall, 4-6 over their last 10. What's going wrong in Baltimore?
Classic case of ownership malpractice. So, Brandon, let's step back and kind of talk about how baseball teams are birthed at this point, right? There are a handful of teams that want to spend as much money as possible. That is a small handful of teams. And those teams are able to buy elite talent and win in that way. And then on the other side of things, there are teams that want to be good, but they want to do so as fiscally responsible as possible. So the Orioles were bad for a number of years, okay? They gutted the team for a number of years, and they put their fans through some really painstaking rebuilding years. And we're talking like 54-108 kind of seasons for 2 or 3 straight years. But with that, they got really cheap. They got a lot of high draft picks, and they built up this treasure trove of top prospects built on high draft picks. And in baseball, it's not the NFL, it's not the NBA. It takes years for that losing to materialize into winning. So the Orioles are at a point now where all of those players have converged in the major leagues at the same time, right? And the Orioles won 101 games 2 years ago and made the playoffs last year, and they've got one of the best young cores in baseball. We talk about Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson and Jordan Westberg and Colton Cowser. They've got players who are ready to compete now. And what did ownership do, right? Ownership saved their pennies for all of these years of losing, supposedly for this moment, okay, to go and augment the young players who are on affordable contracts. This is the moment to go and spend. And what they do, they let Corbin Burns walk in free agency. He goes and signs a 6-year deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks. They replaced him with 41-year-old Charlie Morton, who has an ERA of 110, or essentially. They replaced him with 35-year-old Tomoyuki Shigano out of Japan, who never pitched in the major leagues, who's actually throwing decently, but like your answer to we won 101 games and 90-plus games and didn't win the World Series, your answer to that was we're not going to supplement the roster with outside help. We're going to allow stars to leave. Anthony Santander left. Corbin Burns left. The pitching is a mess. It's an absolute tatters. And it's a shame because it's not just that the Orioles are blowing this window that they have. It's that they put their fan base through 4 or 5 years of awful baseball in order to get to this window. And they're blowing it. And that's what's so frustrating, okay? A rebuild in the NFL, man, that's hard to watch, right? You watch your team go 2-15 and lose every Sunday. That's really, really hard. But then you get the number 1 pick in the draft, and if you land on that quarterback, it turns around in a year and a half, right? We've seen the Bengals go from worst to first or worst to the Super Bowl. We see it every year in the NFL where someone goes worst to first. That doesn't happen in baseball. It is years of just a painstaking process. And the Orioles, they went through that supposedly for this. They saved their pennies for this moment, and they're still not using them.
I feel like you are speaking directly to the heart of a lot of Detroit fans just now, right there. The 2-15 NFL seasons and the not spending in the baseball arena. But no, you're right. I mean, like, fans grow sick of that, and Baltimore has been good in the past, and that's a storied franchise. Why is that? I mean, I don't know much about the ownership there. Is that typical for this regime? I mean, is
new
this
regime? That's the other thing. Like, it was typical for the old regime, but
that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Yeah, new ownership comes in, and it was supposed to be different, and here we are. It's not that different.
Okay. Well, let's finish on a high note, or at least a high note in terms of what's going on with this squad. But the Cubs also hot. You gave me 3 hot teams, 1 not so hot team in the Orioles. We'll finish with the Cubbies, 16-10 overall, 7-3 over their last 10. So that 7-3, 8-2 is about as hot as any of the teams are in baseball right now. So they're right in the mix too, as one of the best teams right now. Why is that, and how good are they, and how good can they be moving forward?
I mean, the offense has been amazing, right? I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but they're I think they lead the league in stolen bases and home runs, which they'd be the first team since 2001 to lead the league in stolen bases and home runs. So they're doing it through speed and through power. They're able to manufacture runs here. They're able to hit the ball out of the ballpark there. The division is mediocre in the Central. They have a chance to run away with that if they continue to play well. And, oh, by the way, like, they're already done with the Dodgers for the season now. Okay, they've already played the Padres early on this season as well. So, like, when you start thinking, okay, these teams are starting out mediocre, and yeah, they're in it, but how many tough games do they have coming down the stretch? Well, the Cubs are done with the Dodgers already, right? They don't see the Dodgers anymore for the rest of the year. And that's a big benefit. You've already played the Padres. You don't have them waiting for you 7 times at the end of the season. So I think the Cubs are good. I think the division is attainable. I think their schedule is advantageous. Pete Crow Armstrong looks like a stud. Kyle Tucker looks like the move of the offseason. They're getting contributions from guys like Matthew Boyd, Shota Imanaga, the bullpen. They played some wild games in one, right? Beating the Diamondbacks, I think like 12-11 or 13-12, beating the Dodgers 11-10. They kind of got everything on their side right now in Chicago, that's for sure.
Anybody in there? I mean, you mentioned that they could maybe run away with the NL Central, the NL East. Looks like the biggest gaps, and again, it's early, but the Mets are up, I think, 5 games or so on the Phillies, who are in second. The Cubs, I think, are up. I was just looking at this, 3 games, I think, on the Brewers. And who's going to challenge the Cubs? I guess that's the point I'm getting to in their division there.
I really like the Reds, and they're under 500 right now, but they they've got like a plus 30 run differential, which is one of the best in baseball, actually. So they haven't been bitten by a little bit of bad luck, I think. I do like the Reds. They've got a young core also. Ellie De La Cruz, Spencer Steer, Hunter Green. I like that team. They've got a Hall of Fame manager in Terry Francona. It hasn't manifested itself yet, but I think that they're going to be interesting through the rest of the year.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. That is the motto for baseball for sure. He is Brady Farkas. I don't know anybody who knows more about baseball. That's all I'll say. Brady.
You don't know a lot of people.
Well, there you have it. Another great episode from Brady. We'll be back again next week with hopefully the whole cast. But again, as these guys are, I know Tom's on the road checking out some baseball stuff. That's why Jack's not here. He's coming back from some baseball stuff. So these guys are knowledgeable, boots on the ground, and bringing it to you every single week. So again, thanks Brady for your time, and thanks everybody out there for listening.
Thanks, Brandon.